when I go through my feeds, obviously I follow a lot of Montreal guys, so I see all this stuff. But I have the privilege of or the benefit of living in Toronto, so I see both. But you guys don't see any of the Montreal stuff at all come up, eh?
Oh, I do. I do.
You just
I
ignore
see
it.
it, but I just don't care.
You just don't care
Yeah.
because you hate the Habs. All right.
No, I hate the Habs, so I don't care.
Hi, and welcome to the show. This week, we discuss some hot topics in the NHL, including a slow start by the Pittsburgh Penguins, some roster noise out of Montreal, as well as some deeper discussions about the Toronto Maple Leafs and how they're built. Can Pittsburgh's leadership team turn that team around, or is it just the beginning of a long downturn? Will Montreal make a move to clear some of the dead weight from their roster? Do the Leafs have what it takes to prove everybody wrong when the entire universe is seemingly on their shoulders and ready to criticize every little thing they do? The season is into November, and the four Fanatics will share our opinions and perspectives with all of you. So please, take a load off, relax, and welcome to Hockey for Fanatics. What did you guys want to talk about tonight? I did you guys take a look at the at the Discord at all, or is this going to be me just kind of throwing it at you? Did
Go
anyone look
ahead,
at
throw
it?
it at us.
Okay, all
Throw
right.
it at us.
Cool. And again, so same deal. Like if this is just what I wrote down, so if you guys have anything else that you want to add, feel free, and then we'll kind of decide now what we want to talk about. Um, so I think there actually is enough to talk about the three teams. So number one was what's wrong with the Penguins, winless in 6 games. So I think Giancarlo can lead us in a conversation about that. He'll probably have the most insight. I mean, from the outside looking in, I'm curious more than anything else. Um, but that was topic number one that I had. And then the next one I had was, of course, the Leafs. Uh, well, I mean, the Leafs started as the road trip fail. That's what I had put because they were like what 0-3 on that road trip, right? And then they came back and
One,
they, sorry,
one, two, two, 1, 2, and 2, or
oh, did they
something.
win? They won a game? Okay, okay. So either way, it was a road trip that didn't go extremely well for them. Um, but then they came back and then they beat Philly, and then this whole thing happened last night with Austin Matthews and all this stuff. So we could probably talk about that too. Um, and I know that Tomaso's probably got a lot of things to say about that.
Yep.
Sure.
All right. And then as for the Habs go, like there is a situation with Dadanoff that I can get into a little bit, and I can go into a little bit of background about what happened, and there was a little bit of a St. Louis snapped at one of the media for asking questions about it, and then it ended up resolving in an IR move today. So I can talk a little bit about that, and that'll be maybe our three topics for today, unless you guys have anything else that you wanted to talk about.
Nope, that's
Go.
good.
So topic number one: what is wrong with the Pittsburgh Penguins? Winless in 6 games. Giancarlo, why don't you start us off with this one?
Yeah, I can go ahead and. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not mad. I'm not worried, and I'm not upset over it. They're going through a little bit of a bump. They started the season off fantastic. They had 3 6-goal games in the first 4 games, and actually they had 4 6-goal games in the first 5 games. So I mean, the scoring isn't the issue. Goaltending hasn't looked great. Jari is not. He's just so inconsistent. I mean, after everything we've been through with Fleury in the past, to have to go through this with Jari is just want some consistency in net. I think this Smith has probably played a little bit better than him. Um, at the end of the day, I can kind of give the same answer that Gensel and Crosby gave. We're going through a bit of a bump. It's not going to stay like this. I'm not worried. I'm not erasing them from making the playoffs. None of that. It's a very very long season, and Pittsburgh tends to go through these stretches all the time. And I mean, they make the playoffs at the end of the day. So the scary thing is, I think we're about to go on the next 6 games. I think 5 of them are on the road. So I mean, always playing on the road can be a bit tougher. So if we drop in 4 or 5 of those games, I mean, yeah, it starts to look really bad on the standings, but the team isn't playing bad. The goaltending's been really inconsistent. The secondary scoring needs to get better. The stars are playing really well. Gensel's scoring, Crosby's scoring, Malkin's scoring, Raquel's playing a lot better, Zucker's playing a lot better. The defense, I think, is still trying to get used to playing with each other because there's 3 new guys out there
Right,
that
right.
it's a brand new decor, and and we got Joseph, who's it's his first real shot at the NHL, and he's a rookie, so he's making some little mistakes that the veterans aren't going to really make. Petrie is taking some really really dumb penalties, and I hope that stops. Other than that, I mean, I think they'll snap out of it. They've been playing some good teams too, like Boston's on fire. Um, but they were beating them. They had no reason to lose to Boston.
Yeah,
And
like
then
that's the biggest
yesterday,
thing. That's the biggest thing that I've been seeing, right? Like it's harder
it's
for
just the
us to
blown
comment.
leads.
Well, it's harder for us to comment because we don't. I admit fully, I don't watch the Pittsburgh games unless they're playing Montreal, right, or the Leafs maybe. But just from the outside looking in, like that's what I'd be curious in and maybe curious about. Maybe it's more about a question of like, what would you say the biggest reason for these losses would be? You mentioned goaltending and defense, but if you were to sort of assess it, would it be goaltending that's letting you down, or is it just,
I think it's a
because
combination.
blowing leads is not good either, right? Like, is it just the fact that you guys are not changing your style at a certain point in time in the game and just playing the same style, or what would you?
Yeah, and some of it's laziness. I mean, like yesterday's game is a great example. Like they're winning up until the third period. I mean, 1 minute left in the second, they give away a goal that they shouldn't give away, so it's 2-1 going into the third. Then they start the third, and Letang sends Gensel off with one of the most beautiful passes you'll ever see, and Gensel snipes it home, and it's 3-1 Pittsburgh. And I don't know. They didn't really take their foot off the pedal, but then they started to get lazy. Buffalo got some goals that they just never should have got. But no, I don't want to take anything away from Buffalo because Buffalo has been playing really well too, and they are looking pretty good. I'm not going to jump on the Sabres bandwagon yet, but they do look good, and they got these guys like Owen Power played so well. He assisted on an absolute beautiful goal, but they're just goals that you want your goalies to save. And I mean, it's a 4-3 game, two empty netters. I know empty netters count as goals, but they can really inflate the scoreline. So to me, it was a 4-3 game. They lost by 1. They blew the lead. So it is what it is. They got to get more consistent with keeping the lead and stop blowing leads. And they need those big saves from the goalies. That's what they're missing right now. They're missing those big saves, and that's got to change.
As a guy that picked them to make the playoffs, I think I picked them to make the playoffs when I was looking back. I am concerned. I know I'm not going to echo what you said, but I'm a little concerned because I think that you can't get off to a bad start. You have to be, especially as an older team. Like, I just don't think it's going to be easier for them. But I mean, if you're not worried, then I guess I would say that you know them better than me at this point. What about
There's
Yeah.
70 games to go, so
Yeah. No, I'm gonna echo Mike's sentiments because I look at their roster and most of the guys are north of 30 and they're gonna be locked up for a while. But I'm also worried for another reason because for some reason these guys always end up getting that generational player, and we know who's available this year, first overall.
Oh boy.
And I picked them to make the playoffs too, so I'm getting a little bit worried. But
Oh man, I didn't even
I don't
think
know.
about that, Dave. Are you
Yeah,
suggesting that they're gonna tank and get Bedard or Fantilli?
yeah.
Oh my
That
God.
phony market might end up with another solid player. It's not impossible, guys. Let's be honest. I mean, it's happened twice already.
I don't think they're doing it on purpose, but
This time,
will
no, they're
they
not
do
doing it on
that?
purpose.
No. Like any team with Sidney Crosby on will never lose on purpose. Like
No,
that
no, no.
is
I'm not putting that.
100%.
I'm not throwing that. I'm saying if they do not make the playoffs, I know Giancarlo is confident because he's seen, and I think we talked about this before, where they have that history. So you have
Yeah,
that
they've earned
confidence
it.
that they
They've
will
earned
turn it
that.
around.
They've
Yeah,
earned that trust.
they've
Yeah.
earned it,
Yeah.
100%. So, but because this year is going to be, it's going to be a grind. It's not going to be a lock. It's not going to be 1-8 locked in by December. This is going to be a totally different run to the playoffs. So if these guys fall
Sure.
behind too far, there's no guarantee they're going to make it.
Well,
And if they don't make the
let's be
playoffs,
fair. They're only 4
yeah.
points out of first place.
No,
in the
I
Metro.
get it, but I don't think they're going to get much better in terms of their roster. Their roster is what it is. There's no one coming. There's not like there's an injury they're waiting for, right? But
Sure.
I'm just thinking if they don't make the playoffs, I don't care where they finish. My money's on them to win the lottery.
Nice.
Nice.
I'll take it.
History has
You know what,
shown. I mean, it's hard to
Giancarlo?
argue.
I'm going. It's easy to be positive when it's not like the Leafs. So the way I look at the Penguins is they're very similar to what the Leafs are going through right now. They're kind of in a lull. A lot of their problems right now stem from their best players, and Malgin, Letang, etc. Like they're the ones making stupid mistakes,
Yeah.
and they're kind of letting the team down. Jeff Carter being hurt actually does affect them because that third line is non-existent at all. Like Kapanen 0 points. They've like the fourth line is getting played more than they are, and obviously the third line shouldn't be the thing that runs the team, but everything is cumulative, and I think what you're seeing in the Pens is a lot to do with the Leafs. Like their star players look almost disinterested. They're almost just not there yet. They're just not clicking. All these cliches you say, like the clicking on all cylinders, et cetera, et cetera. You see that with them because you got to remember these players like Crosby, Malgin, Letang, over and over again. These guys are stars. They've won it all. They've done it all. So they're going to go through periods like this. Like I have no doubt that these guys can pull 12, 2, and 1, like just like that at a snap of a finger. They have the ability to turn it around. So I wouldn't be too concerned. But again, like this team has been looked upon for like the past couple of years now. That when is it going to be the end of the road for them? Is it going to be this year? Is it going to be this year? Is it going to be? And they keep pushing Father Time down the road. And could it be this year? I don't know. The signs are there, but still, I think they have earned our respect. They've earned a lot of credibility, and I think they deserve some more rope.
You got to remember too that they have a healthy team right now. I mean, speaking in terms of core.
Not really though. No, I mean yes and no because they've missed games. Like Letang's missed, I think, a handful. Gensel's been out.
Yeah,
for
what else
3.
is new? Letang misses.
But I mean, like eventually, do you think Malkin's gonna play 82 games? I don't know. I hope
That's
he
what I'm
does.
saying. Letang, I think he's a career high. Played 60 games. Like I had him in pools a long time ago. He's a great player, and I'm not dissing him for his skills, but he
He'll
has
never get a full
struggled.
season out
He's
of him.
struggled staying healthy his whole career, right? Like I
He's
don't.
only played one full 82 season in his whole career, so yeah, he's not.
Yeah, that's who he is. That's who he is. Yeah,
for sure.
Buckle up for that lottery draft.
I don't know, man. Like I said,
I would take it, but
no, I know you would take it. I'd be so confident in if I were you in terms of winning that first overall. Can you imagine?
There should be another rule like what they did with Edmonton. How Edmonton was not allowed, like the Edmonton Oilers rule. You can't be awarded the first round if first overall pick after X number of years. Like,
yeah, there's only so many you can win.
Succession, right?
Right.
Well, Pittsburgh Penguins should not be allowed a generational talent every 10 years. Like you shouldn't be allowed. Like that's not fair.
It's been 16 years.
Yeah.
No, like you just shouldn't. Like there's teams out there that still haven't ever got a true number one center.
Yeah.
And you've gotten Mario, you've gotten Yager, you've gotten Crosby. Like that's just crazy.
For 40 years, you guys have either had for 40 straight years, you've either had Mario Yager, Mario and Sid, and so on. Like, you've never had a chance to go through a tough stretch. And I really want to see it.
I would love to see it. I agree with Dave.
Guys, I'm saying I want to see them go through a tough stretch and see if that is really a hockey market. That's what I want to see.
How much tougher does it get than when your team declares bankruptcy and they're going to get rid of the team?
That's different. That's different. When you have a bad product,
it is as bad as it gets. But Dave is onto Dave makes a valid point, Giancarlo. Like you guys have never had to struggle through Tim Connolly is your top center. Okay, I don't know if you remember Tim Connolly for the Leafs,
but but they've had tough times. How do you think they got Fleury and all these high draft picks?
Yeah, but
Because
they
they were garbage, right? They
Mario
were
had
at the
cancer;
bottom.
he couldn't play, and
Oh yeah,
we
they
had
went through
nobody.
hard times too.
When you go
The
through
Penguins have been through a
one
lot.
year is not. I don't consider 1 year a tough time. I mean,
It was almost
the
8
Avs.
years.
But I'm saying the Avs finished fourth last a few years ago. I wouldn't call it a tough time. They had a tough year.
no, but the Pens did.
I want to see
yeah.
a drought. I want to see a drought in Pittsburgh, and I want to see
Did
the
have that
fans.
drought.
No, but I said I want to see the fans show up.
But
That's it.
how long of a drought are we talking? Because I mean, they had like 8
Not a
years
leaf
of
drought.
terrible.
Not a leaf drought, but a drought where you see a team they're barely struggling to stay 500. You know, like, but we'll see. We'll see. That day will come. Just like that other
Well,
the city in Edmonton, they've been lucky too, but
they did.
that's another.
But they did have a bit of a drought, I guess. I'm trying to play both sides here, where I'm trying to think of all the picks that they got because they did end up drafting. Like, let's see, they got Crosby, they got Malkin, they got Fleury, and they got
Crosby, but
Jordan
Crosby,
Stahl.
they won a lottery.
They
Mike.
won the
They won the
lottery.
lottery.
Yeah,
But they
okay.
would
So
have finished dead last that year. I mean, they
Nah,
were
come
still
on.
garbage. They didn't have anyone that year.
okay,
Who
even
did
if
they
you
have?
remove Crosby from the equation, there are 3 picks there in the top. Like what? Malkin was number 2, I think, wasn't he?
Number 2.
And
Yeah.
then they had Fleury, who was
Jordan Stahl was 5. Fleury was 1.
1, right? And then Jordan Stahl was picked 5th. Really? I thought he was 3rd. Wasn't he 3rd? Giancarlo,
No,
come
I
on.
thought he was. I thought he was 5th. Taves was 3rd. But
No, but didn't
I
they
don't
have
know.
a chance to pick Taves? I
Then
could
maybe it
have
was the other way around.
I could
Jordan
have
Stahl
sworn.
was 3rd.
Yeah,
Taves was 5th.
I could have sworn that they had a
That
chance to
could
pick
be it.
they
Taves.
grabbed Jordan Stahl with the 2nd overall pick.
Well,
I'm
there you
pretty sure.
go. Yeah, so
Even worse. Well, Taves was 3rd.
They could have had Taves.
that's
That
what
was the thing you're
exactly.
alluding to, right?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay, that is true. Yes.
But they took
Yeah, number
Jordan
2
Stahl.
overall. Number 2 overall, Jordan Stahl. So there you go. So I mean, those are 3. Like
Oopsie.
you got 3 picks. Okay, it was an oopsie, but they ended up
Backstrom was
winning
there, too.
cups. They ended up winning cups. But I mean, at the end of the day, okay. In hindsight, it's a mistake, but you still had those. My point is, they still went through a bit of a lull. So they had Fleury, Malkin, and Jordan Stahl, where those are pretty lean years if you're picking in the top 2, right?
For sure.
So I mean, they did, but I do see Dave's point. Like it is something that I don't know if that was on purpose, like if they were doing that on purpose, I guess, as a team. Like that, I admit that the whole tanking philosophy is something that's new to me, because I used to not believe in it. But then as you sort of start to understand the salary cap a little bit more and understanding and, seeing where all of these star players are coming from and then start to do your analysis and you're like, yeah, they ended up getting these guys top 5, right? So that's where that comes from. But it'll be interesting to see if that's something that they would be able to survive again, because I do think, like you said, the bankruptcy solution came up, and maybe people were just not willing to support a losing team for an extended period, right?
No,
I think the team is different than what they were back then. I think
For
that there's a
sure.
lot more fans. I've been to Pittsburgh so many times. It is a hockey city, and it's a major football city. They're known for the Steelers, and there's a lot of Pittsburgh stuff. Like they've turned into a huge hockey city. So I couldn't imagine things were to, for people to all ditch them if things got bad, because it's the NHL. Like you can't
Yep.
always make the playoffs. You can't always win the cup, or else nobody would watch it because it's boring. It'd be like the
100%.
NBA.
We're witnessing it right now in Chicago and Detroit, right? They had their moment, and they won their cups, and now they were at the bottom. And did it affect their attendance? Of course it did. But
Yeah.
those fans are still there. They're still going to be there.
Original 6 teams. Well, I'm not. This is not
Exactly, right?
Pittsburgh is not an
Oh,
original 6 team.
I
They're the
think
second
Pittsburgh
wave.
has developed a fan base pretty strong. Like I think Pittsburgh's not like an Ottawa or a Winnipeg, you know what I mean? Or like even worst case scenarios like Arizona and stuff. Like if they left, no one would even notice. Like no
Well,
one
and
would care.
it's something silly to say, but where your arena's placed, it makes a huge difference too. And those
Sure.
teams that you just named, the Senators don't play downtown.
Yeah.
Buffalo plays in the middle of nowhere. I remember I was in Buffalo for a Bills game, and I wanted to go catch a Sabres game the night before, and I realized it was like an hour away from where I was staying, and I was staying downtown, and I was like, "What? How can it be so far away?" Forget
Really?
that.
I don't remember that. It's been a while since I've been to Buffalo, but they were always downtown for me. Maybe I'm.
No, I don't know if they move, but yeah, they don't play downtown. Like, so I mean, like that's why these teams like Buffalo and Ottawa, like, if they're not doing well, it's a commute to go watch the games. It's a pain in the you know what. So like, but like Pittsburgh and Toronto, they're in the heart of downtown. So like, you're always
Mhm.
gonna have people go, right?
Yep.
It's a prime location.
Yeah.
So the arena makes a difference in that. And I can't remember where the Mellon Arena was, but you know the Penguins played there forever, and that might have made a difference too in terms of where their new stadium is. So
Should
For
be
sure.
fun.
Well, you're
it won't
saying
be going anywhere.
but but again, back to the topic. You're not concerned. It's just 6 games. It's just the beginning of the season. You're still confident that they're going to bounce back and everything's good.
Oh, they'll be lifting the Lord Stanley this year. Don't you worry.
Wow. Wow. Okay, that's that extreme. You know. Wow. Okay,
I
I
Well,
need to
saw
get
enough in the first
making
couple
the
of
I
games.
think
playoffs, but
Giancarlo pretty
lifting
much
the Lord
says that.
Stanley,
I
huh?
think he says that every year, though, Tommaso. To be fair,
Well,
like
you have to.
Okay, cool.
You have to believe in your
Maybe
team.
his Lord. Maybe he means. Maybe his Lord Stanley is Bedard.
There you
maybe,
go.
maybe.
Good stuff.
I think I want to do topic number two. I want to do the Montreal topic first because I think that the Leaf topic is going to be the one that's going to keep our attention the most. So, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to talk about the Dadanov situation in Montreal.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So,
Sure.
so I don't know if you guys are aware of anything that's going on or if this is going to be all news to you, but basically, Dadanov was a healthy scratch in Montreal. Do you guys know about any of this, or is this all news?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
You're
A
aware?
little bit.
Okay. So he was made a healthy scratch, and Montreal's got a logjam at forward, right? Like they've got a lot of, I think they have like 15 forwards on the roster or something. So they're going through a rotation of guys that need to sit when it's their turn, okay? And Druana sat when he's had his when he when the coach had to make a decision, and same with Hoffman, and same with Dadonov, and obviously the coach is it's more of a meritocracy, right? Like you're earning your ice time. So if you make the decision for the coach, you're not going to be benched. But if you're just a guy that's going out there and playing the best you can, but you're not really part of the long-term future of the Montreal Canadiens because all these guys are on expiring contracts, then he's going to sit you and it's your turn to sit, right? So basically, he sat and then the media started to ask questions about to St. Louis, and I don't know if you guys saw that in the on your Twitter feeds or whatever, but St. Louis sort of snapped at one of the media members. Did you guys see that at all or no?
No.
No.
No. Okay. So basically, and it was in French, so but you can pretty much get the point across. Like, my French isn't great, but I understood everything what was being said, and essentially the reporters kept on prodding about, the Dadonoff scratch and saying the Montreal had said that he was having a therapy day, and the media kept on picking on it and asking, and then St. Louis basically said, "Guys, I answered your question. We've already given you a statement about what it's about. Like, stop, right? Like." So and he lost his temper for sure. Like not I don't think it's anything over the line. Like I think sometimes the media members get so sensitive about like I think a coach should be angry if you're asking the same question you're taking a different perspective on it or a different angle on it because you didn't like the answer that you got. A coach can get upset with you. I don't have a problem with that. So,
Why
but he
not? Why not?
exactly. Yeah, that's what you
It's allowed
want,
to be
right?
emotional.
Yeah,
If you
sure.
ask a stupid question, you get stupid response.
Yeah, and if you ask a similar question, and coach is like, I already answered you. And we've already given a statement. What do you want me to say? But the media was
But
obviously
the
picking on
reporter
something.
didn't get that clickbait response that he wanted. That's all
Yeah.
it is.
Either that or I'm trying to look at it, given the benefit of the doubt to the media guy, he sensed that there was something else to the story. And in fairness, there may be more because the plot thickens. So basically, after that, and I've only known about this because this is sort of the chain of events that happened since this happened. So Dadonov's agent called the Canadians GM to have a conversation with him about Dadonov. Obviously, he's not happy. He's scratched. He wants to play. He realizes he hasn't played great, but who would be happy about being scratched, right? And the Canadians GM, being a former agent, basically said, I don't blame the guy for calling me because that's what a good agent would do, right? Like you're trying to get the best for your client, and if you're not playing, you got to figure out a way forward. So Hughes went to go talk to Dadonov, and then it ended up coming out that he had a virus and it was like all of a sudden, and this is where I start to be like, what? Like it was just so strange that healthy scratch, uh, therapy day, then the GM comes out saying that he has a virus, and he's still scratched again, and then the Canadians had to make a roster move in order to clear space for Joel Edmondson, who's returning to the lineup tonight, or at least he's a game time decision to do that. But they needed that roster spot in order for that to happen. And today, as of I think sometime late this afternoon, they essentially put Dadanoff on IR, not LTIR, just IR for a week retroactive to Monday, I believe. So what this does is it gives the Canadians some time to make a decision on a future roster spot. So they obviously have too many players and guys are coming back from injury, and the GM's going to have to make a move. So this buys them a little bit of time. But again, this did for me, and I'm a Habs fan, so I kind of don't want to call this attention to it. But the league, like, how does the league govern this type of stuff? Because how can you just you know what I mean? Like, there's something that smells off with this whole situation where the guy's got a virus, you just put him on IR. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can just avoid all these decisions and implications with your roster by throwing a guy on IR. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
So
There's
what do
got to
you
be
think?
some legitimacy to it, right? Like someone's got to sign off on it. It can't just be, um,
You can't. It
like
can't be
that. What
just
the
the team.
GM is
Yeah.
saying, a doctor, the team doctor must sign off on it, and the NHL just takes them for their word, right? Because no doctor is going to risk their career, just because a GM told them to. There's got to be like, are things exaggerated? 100%.
Yeah.
But are things conjured up? I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah. No, I don't. So I guess what it is like I guess what it is just these guys using every tactic that they can. Like, is he probably not
Sure.
100%? Is he not 100% because he has a virus or he had the flu? Yeah, I guess you could probably say, yeah, a doctor would say, yeah, he's not 100% and he's recovering, right? So then, that it's just a convenient thing that happens to them at this moment, right? So, but either way, this is a to be continued conversation because this is something that needs to be resolved in a week now. So he's bought himself some time, but this is something that will that he'll need to figure out how to relieve some of this pressure with regards to the amount of players he has on his roster because this is not going away anytime soon.
So do you think that there's a chance that they send him to the minors, wave him, put him on the,
So they
or
were
put him
they
down?
were talking about that, waiving him, but I think that what that does, and this is why I like the Canadians GM because he's obviously very thinking about the best for the Canadians. They want to move him, right? Like they don't. Their hope was that they were gonna be able to get some assets back for some of these expiring contracts. There's a reason why they traded for Sean Monahan, right? And they traded for the Dadanoff contract. They were hoping that those were things that they could probably move at the deadline if someone's desperate enough to get a player. But obviously, who's gonna want to get a player that was on waivers, right? For a $5 million fee. Like it's a obviously it wouldn't cost you that much because Montreal would probably eat some salary, but that's probably where he's coming from. Like he's trying to maximize the value for these players. So as a fan, I'm thrilled. But yeah, I don't think they would waive him. I'd be really surprised, but it might come to that. It may come to that because if he can't do anything within a week, and it doesn't mean it has to be a Dadanoff trade. Like that Montreal has a ton of other players that they could move. I know that they've talked about Christian Dvorak being on the block as well, and he's probably a more appealing piece for somebody because he's
Oh, much more attractive piece.
yeah, yeah, and that might be what happens. I don't know how active Montreal's been in trade talks, but that's something that would definitely I think it's going to come sooner rather than later. So topic number 3, Leafs come back from a road trip. And why don't you guys take it away? Like, there's a whole bunch that we can unpack here. So why don't Dave or Tommaso, why don't you guys lead us in this one?
Where to begin with the Leafs? They had incredibly tough road trip. Goes back to what we were talking about the Penguins earlier. They seemed very disinterested. Like been all over the media right now. Finally, they've reached a boiling point in Toronto that now they're actually talking to Keith about his job and if he's worried about his job and so forth. So I think we've reached a point now that the frustration in the fan base is extremely high and excuses no longer work. So what they did last year doesn't matter. Like, I know that they had a rough start to the beginning as well, and then they went on this incredible run, and then it alleviated all of the worries. But the fan base knows, they've seen this story multiple times, and it feels different this year. Like this year, like those losses to these terrible teams, it's extremely embarrassing because like this was their easy part of the schedule. From here on, moving forward, they're going to have some very, very tough teams. And this whole notion, this narrative that they continuously bring up that, okay, they do poor against bad teams, but when it matters, they show up. That was the whole thing they tried to spin last year. Like, I remember before the playoffs started, they were actually trying to make it a good thing that they're facing Tampa because their players would show up, but then they lost. So now what? Where did that go? Now what excuse are you using? Then all of a sudden now it's an excuse now. We lost to Tampa because it's Tampa. You can't have it both ways. You can't say one thing, oh, we need to play good teams and then we'll show up. But then when you play the good teams, you still lose. Like,
Right.
how many excuses? You keep going
But
around and around.
but
It's just this joke at this
right.
point, right?
Right. But not to change the subject, but when I saw obviously they won last night, and I know that they're playing Philadelphia on a back-to-back against a backup goalie. So I'm not. I mean, a win is a win. They got 2 points. They desperately needed a win. If they lost last night, it would have been Armageddon, I think. Um, but what did you think of the whole Matthews? Like, did you guys hear about this noise today with
For
you know
sure. So
Matthews
Yeah.
being called
basically,
out?
what happened is the Leafs played terrible the first two periods, right? They were Flyers were back and forth with them. Flyers were in the game, but the come third period, an exhausted
Yeah, they ran out of gas.
Flyers
Yeah,
team
yeah.
ran out of gas, and you got to give the Leafs credit. They took advantage of the situation. But you can't knock a team when they don't beat up on the teams they're supposed to beat up on, and then when
Yeah,
they do
you
it, you're
gotta
like,
give
who
you
cares?
gotta yeah, you
You
gotta
got
give
to
them
give them
credit.
credit,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
they won.
They
Yeah.
did what they were supposed to do, and they beat the Flyers handily. And the third period, they did really well. So what ended up happening is that shift where the whole kerfuffle happened with Matthews. Just prior, Matthews did this ridiculous between the legs shot on the goalie. And right away, like, that's the type of team the Flyers are. They don't like it. They don't like you trying to show them up. Like, you don't do that against a team like the Flyers. That's a John Tortorella, specialty, right? So Matthews went around the net and Konechny gave him a little shot. For those who don't know Konechny, he's a skilled right winger, excellent player, but he's got a little bit of
Oh, he's
jam to his
gritty.
game.
Yeah, he's gritty. Yep, yep.
Yeah, he doesn't mind mixing it up. So what happens is Konechny gives Austin a little slash. Austin doesn't take it, so he slashes it back and forth a little bit. Konechny's like, "Oh yeah, let's go," but this is the point where Matthews is just like, he's not going to fight Konechny, but Konechny's like, "Okay, you got me now, so let's go." But Giordano comes to the rescue and literally leaps on top of Konechny, and again, the whole kerfuffle started, and everyone's mixed up in this, and everyone's grabbing each other, trying to get at each other, and to one point that they start breaking off, and Konechny starts skating by Matthews, and Matthews cross checks him again, and here we go again, starts all over, but this time Bunting jumps in, and Bunting jumps on Konechny, and it goes on again, a little ring around the
How the
rosy.
hell did the
The
referees lose
problem is
control? How did the referees let
they're
Konechny
useless now.
away? Like, aren't you
No,
taking the
but
guy to the
it
penalty
looked
box?
calm, right? No, but it looked calm. Like,
Yeah,
it
but
looked like they were skating away, but that was the problem. The
yeah, but you
referees
gotta
should
go
have
to the
grabbed him
box.
immediately and walked him right to the box for sure.
Yeah,
But that's the referee's problem. What everyone's alluding to is there's like, I don't know, you call him an inside, whatever, but you ex
Mike
player
Rupp.
Rupp,
Mike Rupp. Yep,
yeah, and
yep.
he's saying that what Matthews did was unacceptable, soft, etc. Because like, so I was saying this to my wife as we're watching the game, and those were almost my words. Because the thing that drove me crazy is that's fine and dandy. He doesn't want to fight, because I always tell my wife all the time, when you got like the MVP, you got the Rock Richard Trophy. He's the heart and soul of this team. You don't want that guy throwing bombs. All it's going to take is
Yeah,
one hit
you
to the
don't want him to
forehead.
fight. Yeah, you don't want him to
No,
fight. Yeah.
you don't want that
I
guy
mean, you
throwing
want him
bombs.
to. I think you want him to stand up for himself, which I think he did.
Sure, and I think that's
Which I
what he
think he
did.
did. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you don't need to fight. I don't care if you don't ever drop your
no,
stick.
but the
That's okay
problem
with me too.
was those guys jumped in to help him, and he was holding on to his stick watching. And that to me is what, like, I didn't like that either.
Hmm.
Like, you're holding onto your stick and you're sort of like just watching your teammates go to war for you. Like, they're all sticking up for him, they're all fighting, all these guys are all jumping in for you. Like, drop your stick, you idiot. Like, do something, grab some. You're the biggest guy on the ice.
I know what you're saying. A lot of people are going to say that. I mean, I think I've seen Sid stick up for himself. I think I've seen McKinnon stick up for himself. But in terms of fighting, I don't really think those guys fight. And I don't think we want Matthews
Crosby's
to fight.
dirty.
Crosby's
He's
Crosby.
dirty.
fought,
Oh, he's dirty.
Mario's fought, they've all
He
fought.
slashes. Oh, 100% he slashes.
But
But that's what I mean. But
ask Mark
he
Mathod about
sticks.
Crosby. He like cut his finger off, man.
Exactly.
Like, you
He'll
He
know.
drop the
sticks up
gloves
for
too.
himself. He'll stick up for himself. But we don't know. Like, has Matthew's been told, we don't want you to fight at all? Is he hurt? And they
But the
definitely
guy
don't want
just
to fight.
didn't he have surgery though? Like,
But it,
Last
but I'm
year on
saying,
his wrist.
yeah.
no.
I don't want
So
that
I
guy
don't know.
throwing a
And they've
punch.
been telling him, we don't want you to fight. Is it in his DNA that some guys, like, you think Nylander's ever going to fight?
No,
I'm just saying, throwing him as a
he'll
comparison.
fight a
Dave,
prosciutto
did you
sandwich.
see
That's
the
about
play
it.
though?
I've
Like,
watched
that
it all.
looks so
But I'm
horrible.
saying that we don't know in terms of some guys just will never fight, no matter what. What
But you
bugs
don't
me the
have to
most,
wait
but you
though.
have to remember too,
That's
this
not the
guy's
point.
never,
Grab
he never,
someone, do
but
something. You know?
where has he played where he's had to stick up for himself? He never played in Canada before. Where he played in Europe before he came up here.
Well,
But
NCAA and Switzerland, right? I think those
well,
are America and Swiss.
I
Those are the
doubt
two places.
I doubt he had to fight in Europe. But my point
Yeah.
is also that, like we said, maybe he just was told you're not dropping the gloves. But you know what bugs me the most is the laughing. That's what bugs me the
I
Yeah,
most
know.
because
that's what bugged Mike Rupp the most, actually.
But that's all
it bugs
part
me the
of it,
most.
though,
I
right?
hate it
It's
because
all
it
part of
just
it.
because
Like,
it
what are you
can mean.
laughing at?
Well, I mean, I
It
don't know.
seems to
It
be
doesn't look good.
it seems to be like his go-to emotional response to this type
Yeah,
of behavior, because even when
Yeah, it's not the first time.
yeah, like even when Montreal was playing him in the playoffs and it
Sherrod.
was like
It
Ben
was
Sherrod
Sherrod.
exactly behind the net, and Sherrod was like grabbing him by the jersey and trying to get him engaged, and I could still see that face, like that smiling face.
Please.
And it's like and again, like I'm not 100% agreeing with the take of Mike Rupp, because I don't want the guy to fight. I thought that it's actually a good response by the Leafs to actually come to his defense. I love
I'm gonna come back to that, Mike.
Giordano.
You hold on to that thought. I'm
Yeah,
gonna come back to what you just said. But
okay.
go on.
No, so I love the fact that Giordano stuck up for him. I love the fact that Bunting stood up for him too. And I don't want my stars fighting, and I like the fact that Matthews, he did. You can say he started it, I suppose, by cross-checking Konechny, and then Konechny
Did.
slashed him, and then he went back at Konechny. So it's not like he shied away. But the laughter, yeah, I guess, like, I don't know. Is that petty? Is that petty to be not,
No, it's not. You know what it is? If you talk to like a behavioral therapist or anyone who actually knows, like, when it comes down to someone, like the way you express yourself, your emotions, your facial features, etc. Like, when you laugh, sometimes it's almost a sign of like how you handle something. Like, some people laugh when they're scared,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, it's just, that's just how it is. Like, it's your way of how your coping mechanism. And I honestly think, like, when he feels uncomfortable, he
He
laughs.
laughs.
I like that's what I'm thinking. That's not a
Yeah, I
cockiness.
agree.
That's like he's getting mauled. He's getting scared shitless right now, and now he's laughing because that's the way he copes with that situation. Because he's not gonna fight. He's not gonna punch someone in the face. So he laughs. Like, there's nothing. I don't know. Like, To me, I think it's idiotic, but that's just his reaction. Like his body's telling him that's how he's going to react to the situation. Like
If
I don't know, who
if you're
cares?
gonna slash somebody across the leg like he did, then you shouldn't be laughing. You should be upset. So, who knows? Honestly, who knows?
It doesn't matter. It's like all these
But
things get blown way out of proportion.
It
exactly,
does. It does.
It's
It
because
exactly.
it's
does.
the Leafs. If this was in
You
Phoenix
know,
or
it's
Chicago or Detroit,
no,
no one
no.
would even give a
You
shit,
said
right?
Chicago. Did you not see Patrick Kane get dumped into the boards by who the heck was it? Who the hell was it? I can't remember who. Max Domi went after this guy. He stood up for his teammate, and if you watch that replay, Kane didn't do anything either. Like Kane
No.
didn't get in the scrum. Kane didn't, you know, take a pair off with anybody. He skated to the bench, and he. I'm not saying he laughed, but I think they were saying that he was mouthing to the bench that I tried to call him off. That
Yeah.
he knew it was going to happen because Domi was going to blow a gasket. But I think that honestly, I think that it's a good sign for the Leafs for this type of thing to happen because even if you're going to nitpick on Matthews and you're going to say he's smiling and he shouldn't be smiling and he should be physically engaged in the scrum and he's the only one that wasn't engaged in the scrum and everyone else kind of came to his aid. Hey, you know what? At the very least, you know that this is your star player and you got to defend your star player. And these guys, when the time came, they did. And now
Yeah, it
you
took
got
7 years, though.
but
It
you
took
gotta,
7 years.
but you also gotta be careful. Now, here's what I'm gonna say, and it's not a double standard, but this is not the team that Dubas built. Like, you gotta
Exactly.
be
That's where I was
really
going.
careful. Go ahead, go ahead.
This is where I want to go because, and this is not just because it happened now, but we've been talking about this, and I've been talking about this to guys, and Mike would know from years ago, where you get a star player like this, you have, we'll call them the core four of Tavares, Nylander, Marner, Matthews. I think we can all say none of these guys are warriors, and what I mean by that is they're not going to stick up for each other. They're going to need some help in
Like a
that
Landeskog is a
department.
warrior. A Landeskog is a
Yeah,
warrior.
he'll stick up for himself. We've seen it,
Why? He fights
right?
for
But
everybody. Yeah.
there you
But
go.
whose fault is that? That's not
But
their
let me go
fault.
back to that. So my point is that if you're not going to instill that in your bottom six or someone on that line to help them, what are you expecting them to do?
Right.
You're going to
Exactly.
expect these guys to fight. So when
No,
you
that's
think
what
about the
Babcock
80s,
did
because I
when
think,
Babcock was the coach. He knew that
yeah,
they weren't gonna fight. So when he played Boston, what did he tell them? What did he tell them?
don't fight. He
Yeah.
said, don't touch
He says,
anybody. Yeah, exactly.
skate away.
Except
Like,
for Kadri. Except for Kadri.
No,
yeah.
but there's only one thing to that though. Like I'm 100% with you on that, right? Like
I'm
the
not
team
done
should
yet,
be
but
more
no, you
balanced.
go ahead. Go ahead.
But
And
just
then I'll
one little thing though, there's this one idiot like Nick Kypreos that he says a lot of stupid things. But
yeah,
one thing that I do agree with him is your star players. It doesn't matter whatever position, whatever, doesn't make a difference. Once in a while, you need to show the other team that you're a nutcase. You can't be taken advantage of because they're going to be coming for you every game until you do. Just one game, just cross check someone in the face. Just do something crazy because then at least you put it in their mind that, you know what, I don't really want to cross this guy.
Yeah.
And he's right
But he
because
did that to what's
every
his
single
face? Darlene.
who? Who's he got?
He got Darlene badly
yeah,
last
he
year.
got suspended. He got suspended.
It was a bad
Yeah,
cross check, man.
but he can't let people like I don't know. You can look at it two ways. In one way, if they know that you're going to retaliate, they'll just come after you more.
Yep.
Like that's why I'm
It's a
always in
fine
that
line.
promote.
It's
Yeah,
there's a fine line. But
But
I'm gonna
that's why
say
you
Dave,
this
need
is
a
that
continue.
go ahead, Dave.
Dave, continue what you were saying.
Go
Sorry,
ahead,
bro.
Dave.
no, I want to say so. You want to build a skill team like he's done, fine. But when you think about the '80s and you remember guys like Probert, Kosher, and Domi, guys who fought and stuck up for their teammates, those guys were the most loved by the skilled guys. They loved those guys. It makes a team
Uh-huh.
tighter. When you have a team that's going to do whatever it takes for each other, you become tighter in that way, and you'll do whatever it takes to
And it
win.
gives you
I
that
think that's a,
safety. It does. It gives you that
there's that,
safety.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's that intangible that's missing from that GM spreadsheet that doesn't show him that. He thinks, oh, I'm going to plug in Aston Reese here, I'm going to plug in Yarn Croc over here, and it's going to work. It's not going to work.
No, it's
Why
true.
would those
No.
guys be so close to this core? They just got here. Most of these guys are going to be playing for a contract somewhere else next year. How close can you get as a team? Maybe something like this that happened makes them a little closer, but we're going to see when a team like Boston shoves them in the corner and takes a whack at them if they're going to all jump in and fight.
That's the
Because
that's the danger because I've seen and you said Boston. I mean, Boston is it's a pack mentality that you need to have. You really need to have it. You need to have team toughness. You can't just and I'm not saying everyone needs to fight. I'm not saying that, but you need to
no,
have yeah.
it's got to be there, right? You think about when you guys would be on your hockey teams, you'd want to be playing on your buddies' team. You guys are all buddies, I'm sure. You play with line mates that you're buddies with. If you were to go to another team, all of a sudden, why would you suddenly be close and stick up for all your
It's
teammates?
true.
You know what I mean? Like, so when you keep changing your bottom six year after year after year, how do you build that tightness, that continuity that
You're right,
these
100%.
Well,
and
Yeah,
that's
that's
why
actually a
I'll
really
always
good
go
point.
back. I will always go back when these contracts were signed. I was pissed off because suddenly I kept saying, now you're going to start losing guys. And how do you build a team when you keep losing guys? It's not easy to
yeah.
have
I
a
know.
huge turnover year
And
after
then what are
year.
they going to do? Trade a first round pick at a deadline and expect that guy to show up and
Yeah.
want to go to war for people they don't even know? You're 100% right, Dave. It's
Well, you
so
remember,
true.
like you guys said, I think it was either Mike or Tommaso. What do you guys said when Nick Foligno came here and he went to they fight and they told him
He
no.
did.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just
He,
very weird the way this team is built. It is eventually going to crumble. Great, they won yesterday, but I don't see it lasting.
This is it's a good point to go on because they got what do they got? Boston on Saturday, and then they got
and
Carolina on
Carolina
Sunday, and then
Carolina, Vegas, I think
and
Pittsburgh
then
twice. I
Vegas.
think.
Yeah.
Vegas
Yeah.
and then Pittsburgh. So I mean,
This
there
weekend will be the thing that tells you what this team is made out of. That's like Flyers doesn't do shit for me. Like the way that they played the first two periods doesn't mean anything. Like they were terrible. Third period, you just beat an exhausting team. Did they beat them? Of course. Okay, give
yeah,
them
they won. They won.
kudos to you.
Yeah.
Good job for you. But you know what? This
But
weekend,
this is an
we'll see.
expectation. That you're
We'll see
expected
what
to
you got.
beat Philadelphia, right? And even though
Exactly.
Philadelphia has had a good start to the season,
With a
again,
backup goalie who has
exactly
yet to
back
win
to
a game in
back,
NHL. Give me a break.
back to back on against a backup goalie. Okay, the reality is like I don't care. Like what were the odds in Vegas last night? Because that's a sure thing as far as I've ever seen. But it's like these games coming up are going to be very interesting to see because the attention's on them whether they like it or not. Like this is the reality. We talked before earlier about Pittsburgh earning the space that they've got, the leeway or the whatever you want to call it, the trust that that people have in them to turn it around. The Leafs have not done that, right? So that's where they're at now, where time is running out, patience is wearing thin. People are starting to nitpick on every tiny little thing, whether it's warranted or not. Whether you're going to pick on Matthews for smiling or not getting engaged, or whether you're going to pick on Marner for breaking his stick and
Mikey, it's
leaving the bench.
over. There's blood in the water now, bro. It's done.
Yeah. It's
Anything they do now, they're going to be
Yeah,
on them. It doesn't matter now. It does like they could win 6-0, but something does something dumb. Like Carlo Koliakovo was picking on them over defensive miscue. Like now it's just now they're so determined now that this is where we're going. They're just going to keep hounding on any issue they can. Like I don't know. Like I don't agree with that stuff. If you're going to attack them for things that are warranted. Don't make stuff up. You don't need to, like, the Leafs give you enough. You don't need to conjure stuff up. You don't need to exaggerate because
well,
they
they
will
run
give it
out
to
of
you on their own.
ideas. They run out of ideas because they've been saying the same things
Uh,
that we've been talking about. So
exactly.
that's where it's at now, right? Like they're like we've said the same things over and over. We've talked about the team being, built incorrectly. How many times? And that's what it is. Like the media here, like there are a lot of media members in Toronto, right? So they're gonna run out of things to say, and they're gonna start to invent new ones. And even if it's not inventing, I call it nitpicking, right? You're going to find something and you're just going to focus on a very, very, small detail that may or may not matter,
Yeah.
but they're just going to focus on that, right?
Yeah. They want a
Sure.
reaction, right? That's what they want. They want
Yeah.
a reaction.
Yeah.
It gets
So
clicks and it gets people
Yeah.
listening because, like, why would you want to listen to the same thing over and over and over?
Yeah, for sure.
Negative garbage. Like, look at Steve Dangle is a perfect example, right?
Well, he
That
gets
guy
lots of
will go
hits.
off,
Yeah.
but no, like he will go nuts, yelling and screaming and whatever. but he's smart enough to know that like I can't just do that all the time. He'll lose his whole entire audience, like when like on Twitter, on his podcast channel, etc. Because Leaf fans, as much as it's almost like, for example, myself, right? I have a brother that like that kid can't dance. We go to a club, I can make fun of him, but if I see someone else making fun of him, we got a problem, right? Because that's how it is with Leaf fans. Like I can laugh at the Leafs, I can talk trash about the Leafs, I could have a huge problem, but then when you're hearing everyone else constantly just dragging on them, it upsets you, it pisses you off, right? So that's why this thing can only go so long.
Well, that's another reason fans get upset too. Is that you don't think we've been laughed at enough that we have to take it on someone, and
Yep.
eventually it gets to the players. And when you're getting mad at the players now, I kind of felt bad that they booed Hall yesterday. He made a couple of blunders, and they're all. So it looks like he's going to be the
Why
first.
do you feel bad for that?
Deep down, I don't like
It's
seeing
not
that
his
stuff.
fault.
It doesn't give me pleasure.
Is
He's
Hall?
miscast, guys. He's miscast.
yeah.
He's put in a top four. That's
Fair
the
enough.
GM's fault, okay? Riley on the power play has no slap shot. Why is he there? He's miscast as well. He's not a number 1D.
Yep.
You know, like this whole team is miscast. The way it's built is just like he said. I'm not going to go the conventional route, which means I'm not going to do it the way everyone else did it. I'm going to do it my way, and it's not going to work. You're
The
trying to
worst
reinvent
possible-
the game, and it doesn't make sense, guys. It just
Yeah.
you know.
Sorry, the worst possible thing that can happen in this scenario is the Leafs decide that it's us against them. Like it's us against the media, it's us against the fans. Because if they do that, they will be the biggest mistake ever because this fan base have stuck by them through everything. No other fan base would stick by them
Yeah.
through all these years of embarrassment and torture and disappointment. But for them to like, I saw little pieces of it with Marner. I think it was during the off season. He did this stupid thing on Instagram, like a Drake song saying like it's me against the world. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, kid? You disappeared against Montreal. You were garbage. Like, the fans have every right to be upset at you. You go yell, like, going crazy, try to get every penny you can get, $11 million. Now, you know what, buddy? Earn it. Like, you can't put yourself in that bracket of player and then not get upset when you don't live up to those expectations. You can't. That's part of the job. So that's what I mean. Like these new players, they're all entitled little brats. Like
But
that's all it is. They're all little
Speaking of
babies.
speaking of Toronto fans, though, like I watched that game last night. I didn't watch the whole game. I watched maybe a period and a half, and I made this comment to you guys on the chat too. Like you mentioned Leaf fans sticking by these guys, and maybe you guys are because you guys are diehard fans, right? And this is why we did this podcast in part because this is a way for you guys to get a voice at least out there. Because I got to tell you, watching that game and hearing those fans are quiet, man. Like they're not.
They're waiting for something bad to happen, Mike.
No, they're just waiting for something. Like
No,
he
they
said
are.
it perfectly
I
before
know.
the game. We
Talking
gotta
about
give
the
them a
fans
reason
at the
to
arena?
cheer.
The fans at the arena?
Yeah, I'm talking about the
Yeah.
fans at the
Well,
arena.
I mean,
yeah.
half of them are on business calls, aren't they?
That's exactly it. You go to
No, it's not,
Have you
guys.
been
I
to a
go to the
Leafs game?
games.
Have you been
Yes,
to a
I
Leafs?
go at
I
least
used to
3,
have
4 times
season
a year.
tickets. I
the
used to
real
have
fans
season
are not
tickets.
there. The real
When?
fans are not there.
I go
The-
3, 4
the
times a
fans
year, and I'm going next week. And I'm telling you right now, the
take
fans. I
pictures.
get what
It's
you're
all
saying.
business people. Their
No, the
crowd is a joke. Out of every
no.
sports event that I've ever been to, being at Leaf games is probably the
Then
most
why the
boring.
playoffs so loud?
Uh,
Like what do you like? You know what I mean? The playoffs are the loudest in all of the NHL.
no, you're wrong.
Why?
Sorry.
I don't think
Montreal
I'm not
destroys
saying-
it.
It's one of-
Montreal
Yeah, I think
Montreal
Montreal
destroys
destroys it.
Toronto.
It's up there.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So like you know what I mean? You need to give the fans reason. Because the fans are going out there not knowing what to expect out of this team. That's all it is. If you give them a reason to cheer, the fans will be there. They will be there for you. Are they like I don't know.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. I mean, the excitement with this team is dwindling. They're not
For sure.
They're not exciting to watch. You know, those intangibles are missing. There's a missing element when the crowd loves seeing a hit. Like go back to last year when Lyubushkin hit someone, the crowd went nuts. You know who
Yeah.
leads the lead? You know who leads the Leafs in hitting this year in hits? Matthews. That's how sad it
That's
is.
sad. That's a sad
Yeah.
stat.
Okay.
Talk about stats, Dubis, you piece of shit. What kind of a
So
stat is that? No, that's
I'm gonna go.
brutal. That's
It is
I
bad.
love it,
brutal.
Austin.
Man.
I love it, Mike.
That's
I love it.
no,
I
that's
love it.
brutal. I'm sorry.
You're
It's
slowly
stats.
making him become one of us.
Stats my ass. No, that bothers me. And everyone talks about stats and analytics. Like, oh yeah, you want to see an analytic when your Maurice Richard winner is leading your team in hits. Come on. That's problems. That's problems.
Look,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
want to talk about the thing that got Leafs out of their seats and got them most excited about this team this year, it was when Giordano stuck up for Matthews. That play got Leaf fans crazy. They were going, yes, that's what we want to see. Not
What does that
any
tell
Mitch
you?
Marner dipsy do or even a Matthews shot. And the Leaf fans, don't get me wrong, they love Matthews. Matthews is their guy. But that play for Giordano, like we love our boots to the ground
Yeah,
players.
blue
We
collar.
love our
Yeah,
guys,
blue
our
collar
hardworking guys.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, like Zach Aston Reese, he's useless. Him and the other hyphenated Obel useless. I've never seen a bigger joke when it comes down to hits. Like they're going up and like they shouldn't even be counted as a hit. They're giving these little muffins to people, like walk up, excuse me, sir, and he gives them a little bump. Like that's a hit. Like when I heard all the stuff about him coming from Pittsburgh, he's like hits everything that moves. Are
Always
you
good in
kidding
Pittsburgh.
me?
But this is
Might
gonna
know
go
that
back.
hits harder than that guy. Give me a break, man.
But
Like
this
give me
goes
a
back to if your core four that they have, if none of them are warriors, the rest of the team will not follow. I'll guarantee you that the reason why Reese would hit people because he would see the way that Crosby works, the way that Malkin works, and all those guys. There's a
yep.
difference in culture, and it's not here. When your core four are very soft and they're not driven in that way, why would the rest of the team follow that?
Yep, I'm telling you, Nick Foligno, when he got traded here, I know everyone shits on that deal.
No,
I
I
said
not
I
me. I
wish
still
he
think it was
comes
a good
here.
deal. I still think it was a good
If
deal.
he didn't come hurt, if he was healthy, he would have been he would have been the key to that Leafs taking the next
He would
step
have been a
because
leader. He
that's
would have been a
exactly what
leader
you
in
need.
that. He would have been a leader in that room. Yep,
That's
he
yeah,
was.
that's exactly
Yeah,
what you need.
yeah,
Look how he's playing for Boston this year. I don't hear no Nick Foligno jokes because
yeah.
he's playing amazing.
Oh,
And
I
that's
think
the only
he's
problem.
exactly. He's the type of player that you need, and leadership is. And I know Dubas has mentioned in the past that he overlooked that leadership quality, right?
Who
But
says that? Who says
I
that?
how are you a GM in the NHL and say that I've overlooked leadership and physicality? I still don't believe that actually happened. Let's
well,
joke.
he said it, and no one called him on it. So
I
I think
know.
at some point it needs to, it is going to come to a head. I don't know. I know we've gone over the possible scenarios with him, and this is where I still think there that he's in big trouble. I don't know if the coach is. I wouldn't fire the coach. I would keep the coach because I don't think it's the coach's fault that this team is assembled this way. I don't think
Totally
anybody.
agree with you.
I don't think anybody can get any
You
more out of
fire
these
the
guys.
coach, you're taking the thing out of the players and
Again,
Dubas.
yeah.
Like you're basically doing them a favor
Again,
because it's
though,
not on the coach
they did
anymore,
that with
right?
Babcock. We've been down
We
this
already
road.
did it with Babcock.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
more excuses. This is you.
People can criticize Babcock. I mean, I didn't like what he did to Marner that time with the whole, who needed to work harder. I thought that was a pretty classless move for sure as a coach. When they play mind games with players, I didn't like that for sure. But Babcock, at the end of the day, he knew where the team was deficient, and he tried to get those players, and Dubas didn't want to go that route. And Babs
No, but
basically,
let's go back for a second, right? Look what the things that Babcock got criticized for. He wanted to make these players accountable, and he was trying to limit their star players' ice time. Those are two big things that he got hounded on by the media. The media hammered him constantly. They're saying, "You have Austin Matthews. You should be playing X number of minutes." Da 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 da. What's happened in the past little bit? The ice time for Austin Matthews and them have gone down because they were feeling worn out by the time they've gone to the playoffs. They haven't. Imagine going through an actual playoff series to the cup and you're worn out by the first round,
Yeah.
like, you know how ridiculous that is.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I like, this whole thing is a joke. Like, Babcock, he had many faults, but he knew what he was doing. He was preparing these young guys to have a type of mentality that, look, we need to be
Get learning.
accountable for
Yeah.
each other, and we need to be like, none of this entitled garbage.
Yeah. He
He was
wanted them to
trying
earn
to
it.
instill
You're
that.
right. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, he was 100% trying to instill that. And what happened? And then he brings in Keith that coddles him. First practice, Lady Gaga blaring on in the stadium. Come on, boys, let's have a party. Don't worry about the mean old Babcock had to say.
Yeah.
And now look what you got.
Well, Keefe,
This is the
he
product of your thing.
he's been with Keefe like his whole career, right? Like he's been
Well, that goes
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to
yeah.
this goes back to if you look at I may have sent you guys something on it, but if you go back and look at how Dubas sold himself to the Sault Ste. Marie to become GM there,
Right.
he went there and had this huge binder, 100-page binder with whole presentation of how he was going to do it his way and this and that and build it on skill and whatever. And that team went nowhere. He had the same results as he has here. Out first round. I think he may have won one round in his time there. So it's like, where is this plan work? where,
But
where is
that's
this
what I mean.
Well, he
presentation
won
How
the
did
he
he
true?
won
do
the
it?
Calder Cup. He won the Calder
But
Cup.
the
Yeah.
call, see,
Okay,
people
but
bring that
how
up,
did he
but people
get the
forget.
job to begin with is what Dave is saying.
But
How
people
did he
forget
get
that the Calder
yeah?
Cup was there's no set. He had the oldest team, the most money to spend because there's no cap.
Yeah.
He had the
Yep.
best team there. So I mean, let's give a little bit of that to him, but not too much credit.
That Calder Cup team had NHL players on it. Okay,
Yeah.
like that's how that was a very deep team.
Let's be honest.
I
If
don't know.
this team right now, and this goes back to going about the salary cap and those signings that he did, if this team right now had, and I know this is a dream, but if they were to have held on to Hyman, Kadri, let's say Connor Brown and Marchment, I think this is a this is a very deep team that could
Oh
easily
yeah,
be favorites. So he had
for
these
sure.
guys, he lost them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
those were not his type of guys. Whether he couldn't keep them for salary, whether they didn't fit his imagination because he preferred Malgin to Marchment, he had the pieces. He threw them away.
I'm not crazy about playing these hearsay games
Hypothetical.
because
But he
you
had
never.
them though.
Yeah, like,
But he's right
but
though.
you're right. Like, now imagine Lou was the GM, right? You think he would have gotten rid of Kadri? You think he would have got rid of Hyman and let them walk? Hell no,
Maybe Hyman. I mean, Lou has let guys
no,
walk before. Like it's not unprecedented.
not those
Be
type
honest,
of
those
guys.
guys I just mentioned,
No, those type of
those,
guys he would never let go.
no, he wouldn't. But I'm saying those four guys I mentioned loved being a Maple Leaf. And
Yep.
the guys you who replace them with, whether it's Yarncroc, Reese, name these other guys,
Camp.
they don't know what it
Bunting.
means. They don't have that love. They don't have that pride. So you've
Yep.
already taken that intangible away from this roster and replaced them with guys that are just guys
Yeah.
that
But
are
in all
hoping
fairness,
they fit
Kadri
in.
was a tough situation. It was
I'm
a
not.
very
But
tough
my point is,
situation.
he loved being a Leaf. Max Domi would have
Yeah.
loved being. He doesn't bring those guys. He brings these other guys that doesn't fit.
Apparently, Max wanted to come here. He wanted to come here. Toronto
Well,
was
him
his
and
first phone
Marner are
call.
buddies, right?
Yeah, Toronto was his first phone call, and Toronto said no. We just don't have the room for you. Don't have the cap
He got
space.
to
So
sign Engvall and Yarncroc, right? So
What he said? What did he
yeah,
signed for 3 million with Chicago? I think.
yeah, that's too
One
much money for
one year. 1 year.
third line player.
and you know what? The next gym that comes here might bring him next year. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I
Yeah,
think I
you can
think
see him coming
I think
eventually.
would fit, but I mean, this is where. But back to Dave's point, right? Like, I you had the makings of a more complete team in a conventional sense, and I know that. Hey, look, Dubas tried it his way. In the end, it doesn't look like it's going to work. Like I'd be really surprised if they can somehow turn it around now. I am, and I was the one that was always saying, as long as you have that talent, it's going to be easy to build around it. But this guy just refuses. He refuses to fill the team with those types of players like Dave is mentioning, like guys that will hit, guys that will check, guys that will, stick up for each other. And I know that we saw the guys sticking up for each other last night, but when push comes to shove and you're going to play a real team that's going to come for blood and come to kill you, do you think Bunting is going to be there to save you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the problem because you do need some beef. You do need some guys that are going to be like, take no prisoners or take no shit from anybody and stand up for themselves and stand up for their teammates and do it with emotion. With emotion, not just doing it because you know the cameras are watching and you got to do it. It's like because it's the right thing to do. To stand up for yourself right now, to stand up for my team right now. That's when I do it, not because the camera's watching me.
I don't
Yep.
know.
Well said.
But that's why Montreal series hurt so much because I think that was the deepest that team would have been. Like with having Foligno and Hyman in the top six, and then you have Bogosian. Like obviously he's on the bottom pairings, but you still have that element of toughness there. I think that team would have been the best chance of actually, going far in the playoffs because they had multiple elements, not just skill, but unfortunately Foligno came broken and he didn't live up to any expectations. Hyman was coming off an injury and he didn't play anywhere near to his capabilities. And that's a like unfortunate way to go for him too. Like things just didn't work out their way. What can you do?
Oh, I have the same opinion as I always do. I mean, I still think that they're a playoff team, but I don't think that they're going to win with the current team that they have. But I mean, they can go on a run. I think they could probably win a round, but it's if they have any key injuries, this team's going to look really beat up, right? Like if hypothetically if Matthews or even Marner go down, I don't know. I don't see like I just don't see what any success that would come out of them, right? So I don't know. I agree with everything you guys have said on this. So I don't have too much to add to it. Dubas has just got to go. That's the end of the day.
Hey,
They need a new
Giancarlo.
GM.
Giancarlo, we might give you a run for the first pick overall. You never know. Maybe we'll both be
Yeah.
in the lottery.
There you go. We'll have that race.